Okay, ready to dive into something we all think about?
Always.
Relationships.
Yeah.
They can be amazing, but also, let's face it, sometimes they get a little messy.
Oh, for sure.
So today, we're going to learn how to spot those warning signs,
Okay.
like those little red flags
Yeah.
before they turn into big problems.
Right.
So to help us break this down, we're looking at this episode of Jay Shetty's podcast.
Okay.
It's called 6 Red Flags to Avoid in Relationships and How to Spot Them Early.
Catchy title.
I know, right?
Ugh.
And anyone who wants to go even deeper than we're going today, Shetty's got this whole book called 8 Rules of Love.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let's jump into these red flags.
Okay, let's do it.
So red flag number 1 is somebody dropping the L-bomb way too soon.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've seen this happen with friends, and I'm always just like, do you even know what love means yet?
Right. It makes you wonder, is this like the real deal or just like infatuation?
Totally.
What's so interesting is Shetty actually cites some research that suggests men are quicker to say, I love you. Like on average, they say it around 88 days into dating versus women who take like 134 days.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference.
I know, right?
That could put a lot of pressure on someone.
Definitely.
It's like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to figure out your favorite color. You're already talking about soulmates.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, slow down.
So what does Shetty say you should do if this happens to you? Like if someone says, I love you, way too early.
He says don't feel like you have to say it back just because they did.
Oh, good advice.
Yeah, instead just like ask them,
Yeah.
what does love mean to you?
Oh, that's smart.
You know, like it's not about putting them on the spot or anything. It's more like you're just opening up this real conversation.
I like that.
And their answer can tell you a lot.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, red flag number 2. This one's tough. Pressure to have sex.
Ooh, yeah.
This kind of ties into what we were just talking about, like rushing things. Shetty starts out with this statistic that really got me. 52% of abused women said they felt pressured into having sex by someone who was love bombing them.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
It is. It makes you realize how important it is to be aware of, these tactics.
Definitely.
But I mean, sex itself isn't bad, right? It's like a
Yeah.
natural part of a lot of relationships.
For sure, it's totally natural, but the key is it has to be consensual.
Right.
And it has to feel right for both people.
Makes sense?
Shetty talks about how during sex, your body releases this hormone called oxytocin.
Okay.
It's also known as like the cuddle hormone,
Okay.
and it makes us feel connected.
Yeah.
But especially early on in a relationship, that feeling could be misleading.
So you're saying those like warm and fuzzy feelings that you get after sex
Yeah,
might not be an accurate reflection of how compatible you actually are with someone.
exactly.
Oh, wow.
Oxytocin basically acts like a volume dial for our emotions.
Okay.
And get this, for men, their oxytocin levels can actually shoot up over 500% after sex.
500%. That's huge.
I know, it's crazy, right?
So with a hormonal high like that, I mean, it's got to be hard to see things clearly, right?
Totally, yeah. It could definitely make it harder to see those red flags.
So what can we do to make sure we're not making decisions based on like that post-sex glow?
Shetty's advice is to just give yourself a little bit of space and time to reflect on the relationship
Yeah.
outside of that intense physical connection.
Gotcha. So it's like making sure the connection goes beyond just chemistry.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move on to red flag number 3.
Oh.
Talking about marriage and kids too soon.
Oh.
I feel like that's
Sure.
a classic rom-com trope.
It is.
But in real life,
Yeah.
it can turn into a nightmare pretty quickly.
Oh, definitely.
And this actually kind of ties into what we were just talking about with love bombing.
Yeah.
It's like, showering you with all these grand gestures and promises to like sweep you off your feet.
Right.
But it's all a tactic, really,
Yeah.
to control the relationship. So it's like they're not actually in love with you.
Right.
They're in love with this idea of you
Yeah.
and this future that they've created in their mind.
Totally. And that can be really damaging.
Yeah.
Shetty actually mentions a study where 25% of women needed therapy
Wow.
after they experienced love bombing.
That's intense.
It is. It can really mess with your head
Yeah.
and leave you feeling lost and betrayed.
That's a serious consequence.
It is.
I think Shetty shared some real life stories
Yeah,
to kind of illustrate this point, right?
he did.
What were some of those?
Yeah, so he talked about Caitlin who kind of fell for her doctor while she was recovering from an injury.
Oh, wow.
She was in a really vulnerable place, and he was in a position of authority.
Okay.
And it just highlights how easily our feelings can get tangled up in those kinds of situations.
Right, it's like the perfect storm for infatuation to develop.
Exactly.
Wasn't there another story about a couple that rushed into marriage
Yeah.
and then had a baby right away?
Yes, Tasha and Andrew. They basically jumped right in, probably got caught up in that whirlwind romance.
Yeah.
But later on, Tasha actually struggled with depression.
Mm,
And it just goes to show you that you really need a strong foundation
right.
built on more than just initial attraction
Yeah.
before you make these huge life decisions.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder to take things slow.
Yeah,
Build that solid emotional connection first.
for sure.
Okay, red flag number 4. This one's particularly unsettling.
Uh-oh.
Gaslighting.
Ooh, yeah.
I always struggle to explain what gaslighting is
It's tough.
to people who haven't actually experienced it.
It is, but, I mean, how would you explain it?
I guess I would say it's a way of manipulating someone,
Okay.
where the abuser basically makes the victim doubt their own sanity,
Yeah.
like their own version of reality.
Yeah,
It's so insidious because it can slowly chip away at your self-esteem.
totally.
You start to question everything you think and feel.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that Shetty points out that gaslighting often comes from the abuser's own insecurities
Yeah.
and their need to be in control.
So it's not the victim's fault at all.
No, not at all. But sadly, it can take a long time to break free from that cycle of abuse.
It's a good reminder to always trust your gut.
Yeah.
Pay attention to those red flags.
Totally.
Even if someone's trying to convince you that you're imagining things.
Right, like your feelings are valid.
Yes.
And you deserve to be in a relationship where you feel respected and heard.
Absolutely. Okay. Red flag number 5.
Yeah.
Someone who discourages your passions and your dreams.
No, that's a big one.
It is. This one's often overlooked, I think.
Yeah.
But it's so important to have a partner who actually supports your growth.
It's crucial, like Shetty really encourages listeners to think about this.
Okay.
Does your partner encourage you to think for yourself?
Right.
Or do they try to dictate what you should think?
That's such a good point.
It's all about finding someone who celebrates your successes
Yeah.
and pushes you to reach for your goals.
Right. A healthy relationship should be like a source of support and encouragement,
For sure.
not a cage that's holding you back
Yeah.
from being your best selves.
Right.
Shetty also references this article from The Atlantic.
How cool.
Talking about how people are entering relationships later in life these days, like after they've achieved some personal goals.
Yeah.
So it's not about needing someone to complete you.
Right.
It's about finding someone to like share your journey with.
Exactly.
So you're coming to the relationship as a whole person,
Yeah.
not looking for someone to fill a void.
Right. And that creates a much healthier dynamic.
It does.
Yeah.
You're both bringing your own experiences and passions to the table.
Definitely.
Okay, on to the final red flag on Shetty's list.
Yeah.
Someone who's constantly talking about their ex.
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely seen this one play out in real life,
For sure.
and it never ends well.
It's tough because everyone has a past, right?
Right.
But if someone is constantly dwelling on their ex, it could be a sign that they haven't really moved on.
It's like you're constantly competing with a ghost.
I know.
Like, hello, I'm right here.
Exactly.
So Shetty brought up some pretty fascinating stats from this survey.
Oh, really?
Get this. 81% of single people still think about their exes.
Wow, that's a lot higher than I would have thought.
I know, and 70% of men and 76% of women admit to actually looking them up online. So, pretty common.
It is, but, I guess it's natural to be curious.
Yeah.
Even if you are in a new relationship.
Right, it's normal to wonder how someone you were once close to is doing.
Yeah.
But Shetty warns that dwelling on the past can prevent you from being fully present
Yeah.
in your current
It's
relationship.
like you can't build a strong foundation if one foot is still stuck in the past.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we move on to part 2,
Yeah,
just want to say this has been so insightful.
it has.
We've covered so much ground already.
We have.
And it's clear that recognizing these red flags early on can really save you a lot of heartache down the road. It's all about empowering yourself
Yeah,
to make informed decisions about who you let into your life
absolutely.
and build those healthy, fulfilling relationships.
We'll be back with part 2 to get even more practical
Sounds good.
with tips on what to do if you see any of these red flags popping up in your own life.
Can't wait.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into relationship red flags.
We're back.
So we uncovered some pretty big ones in part 1.
Yeah, we did.
Now let's get practical,
Okay.
Like, what do you actually DO if you see these red flags pop up in your own relationship?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right?
It is. It's one thing be able to spot the signs.
Yeah.
But how do you actually navigate those situations?
Right. Exactly.
So let's say you're dating someone
Okay.
and you start noticing one of these red flags we talked about.
Yeah.
What's the first step? Do you just, run for the hills?
Not necessarily. I mean,
Not.
it's not always a clear-cut runaway situation. Sometimes it is, but,
Yeah.
even before you consider that,
Yeah.
Shetty really emphasizes trusting your gut.
Okay.
Like, if something feels off, don't just brush it aside.
That makes sense, but sometimes it's hard to know. Am I overreacting?
Yeah,
Or is this, a legitimate concern?
totally.
Okay.
I think doubt is just a natural part of this whole process.
Yeah.
But that's where communication becomes so crucial.
Okay.
Shetty talks about having these open and honest conversations with your partner
Yeah.
about what you're seeing and how it makes you feel.
So instead of saying, hey, you're totally gaslighting me,
Right.
you would focus more on, your own experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about expressing your needs and setting boundaries.
Gotcha.
You could say something like, when you bring up your ex a lot, it makes me feel a bit insecure.
Okay, yeah, that's a much better approach.
Right.
It's direct, but it's not accusatory.
Exactly.
He invites a conversation instead of starting an argument.
Yeah. And remember, healthy communication goes both ways,
Right.
Your partner should be open to listening to your concerns and respecting your feelings.
What if they get defensive, though? Or just completely shut down?
Yeah, that's a huge red flag in itself.
Okay.
If they can't handle a conversation about your feelings,
Yeah.
it might be a sign that they're not willing to put in the work
Right.
to make the relationship healthy.
And that actually kind of ties into something else that Shetty talks about, right?
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Yes, exactly.
He makes a great point
Yeah.
about how we need to be aware of our own patterns
Right.
and behaviors in relationships.
Totally.
Sometimes we might be unknowingly contributing to those unhealthy dynamics.
For sure.
It's like we have this, relationship blueprint in our minds
Yeah.
based on past experiences
Right.
that isn't actually serving us well.
Exactly. And by becoming more aware of our own patterns,
Yeah.
we can start to break free from those unhealthy cycles and attract partners who are a better fit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This all reminds me of something Shetty said about the difference between liking someone and actually loving them.
Oh, yeah.
He said, liking is based on chemistry. Loving is based on character.
Ooh, that's good.
I know, right?
Powerful quote.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Those initial sparks and butterflies, they're amazing.
Oh, for sure.
But real love goes so much deeper than that.
It does.
It's about respecting and appreciating someone for who they are,
Yeah.
flaws and all.
Exactly.
It's choosing to love them even when it's hard,
right.
not just when it's easy and fun.
Exactly. And building that kind of deep, lasting love,
Yeah.
it takes time and effort.
It does.
It's not something that just happens overnight.
So how do we cultivate that kind of love? Is there a secret formula?
I wish.
Right?
I mean, there's no magic formula,
Okay.
but Shetty really emphasizes aligning your values and your goals with your partner.
So it's not just about being attracted to each other.
Right.
But you're also on a similar path in life.
Exactly.
You have shared dreams
Yeah.
and aspirations.
And you're both committed to supporting each other's growth.
I like that.
Yeah.
He also talks about communication a lot.
Yeah, we've already touched on that.
We have, it seems to be, a recurring theme.
For good reason.
Yeah.
Communication is the foundation of any healthy relationship.
It's being able to express your needs and feelings openly, being a good listener,
Right.
respecting your partner's perspective.
And being willing to work through conflict together instead of avoiding those tough conversations.
Right. Or letting things fester.
Exactly. Every couple is going to have disagreements.
Right.
But it's how you handle them that really determines the strength of your bond.
That's a great point.
Are you attacking each other?
Yeah.
Or are you approaching the issue as a team?
It's us against the problem.
Exactly.
Me against you.
Yes.
And that actually ties into another important element that Shetty talks about.
What's that?
Forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Forgiveness is so essential for moving past those hurts
It is.
and that resentment.
It doesn't mean condoning bad behavior,
Right.
but it does mean releasing that anger
Yeah.
that can poison a relationship.
It's about acknowledging that we're all human. We all make mistakes.
Right.
And choosing to love despite those imperfections.
Yeah, and that brings us to another important aspect of lasting love.
What's that?
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Okay.
Yeah, it's about loving your partner for who they truly are,
Right.
not who you wish they were.
So embracing their strengths
Yeah.
and their weaknesses.
Their quirks, everything that makes them unique.
It's realizing that no one is perfect,
Right.
and that's okay.
And actually, those imperfections are often what makes people so interesting.
Totally.
It's about creating a space where both partners feel safe and loved
Yeah.
for being their authentic selves.
Without judgment or pressure to change.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
We've gone from, spotting those initial red flags
Yeah.
to exploring the deeper qualities that contribute to, like, healthy, lasting love.
We have.
It feels like we've covered so much.
We have, but there's still more to come.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Okay.
In our final part, we're going to pull all of this together and talk about how to actually apply these insights to your own life to create those more fulfilling relationships.
I'm excited for that.
Me too.
So stay tuned for part 3.
Yeah, we'll wrap it all up.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've gone deep into those relationship red flags, talked about what real lasting love looks like.
Right.
Now let's bring it all home.
Okay.
How do we use all this knowledge to actually, improve our own lives and relationships?
Yeah, I love that. That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
It is.
So Shetty really emphasizes this idea of self-reflection. Like, we need to take a good, honest look at our own patterns and beliefs.
When it comes to relationships.
Exactly. So asking yourself things like, what kind of partners do I usually end up with? What are my absolute deal breakers?
Yeah.
Do my values actually line up with the people I'm dating?
Those are really good questions to think about.
Yeah, it's also about recognizing our own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Like, what do I bring to the table in a relationship?
Yeah.
What are my blind spots? What could I work on?
Because let's be real, none of us are perfect.
Oh, absolutely not.
We all have our own stuff to figure out.
Totally. And recognizing that is actually, I think, a sign of maturity.
Okay.
Yeah. It allows us to approach relationships with more humility and compassion, both for ourselves and our partners.
I like that Shetty also reminds us that love isn't some, finish line that you just cross.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It is. It's a constant process of, growth, discovery, and learning. It takes effort, communication, and that willingness to, adapt and evolve.
As individuals and as a couple.
Exactly.
And sometimes that journey leads you to a point where you realize this relationship isn't actually working anymore.
That's a hard truth, but Shetty points out letting go can be just as important as holding on. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the other person is to actually walk away from a relationship.
That's no longer healthy.
Right. Or fulfilling.
It's tough to admit, that love doesn't always conquer everything.
It is.
Sometimes the best thing is to just create space for, personal growth and healing.
Yeah, and even though endings can be super painful,
Yeah.
they can also lead to some incredible learning and transformation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
let's recap some of those key takeaways.
All right, let's do it.
Number 1, trust your gut.
Yes.
If something feels off in your relationship,
Don't dismiss it.
yeah, pay attention to those red flags.
Uh-huh.
Be willing to have those tough conversations.
That's so important.
Number 2, make open and honest communication a priority.
Yes. Talk about your needs, your feelings, your expectations.
And be a good listener.
Really listen to what your partner is saying.
Absolutely. Number 3, remember that love is a choice.
It's not just a feeling.
Right. It's something that you actively build
Yeah.
and nurture over time.
Takes effort and commitment from both people.
Absolutely. Number 4,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to reach out for support.
That's a good one. Yeah, friends, family, therapist.
Right.
Having that support system can make such a difference.
It really can.
Yeah.
And finally, never forget that you are worthy of love
Yes.
and belonging.
Don't settle for a relationship that makes you feel less than whole.
That's so important.
It is.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights
Yeah.
and tools to navigate relationships with more awareness,
More intention.
more self-love.
Yeah, and if you want to go even deeper on this topic,
Yeah.
definitely check out Jay Shetty's book.
8 Rules of Love.
Yeah, he covers so much of what we've talked about today.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds good.
Until then, may your relationships be filled with joy, growth,
And of course, love.
definitely,